Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Club.
Yay.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of the Phoenix Pod.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, I
It's
couldn't really.
Phoenix Pod.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm saving it. We've only got a couple
One
more episodes to do.
One more episode.
One more episode after this, and
Yeah.
we can get back to normal.
Get back to bread and butter.
So once again, I'm of course your host AXC, joined once again by a man who is half a man.
Oh yes,
We
yeah,
got it.
did get it.
It's only taken
Yeah.
3 years of practice.
Is that how long you've been half a man?
Let me work it out. I think roughly, yeah.
God,
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
because I can distinctly remember the podcast that we did after said event, and I believe AXC went, "So Paul, how are your balls?"
I can't remember how I answered that. I'm going to have to listen to that back. Which you'll find the
Saved.
links for at the end of this episode.
Yes,
Say,
indeed.
if it's like 3 years ago, then friggin' hell, has time fucking flown?
It has flown, but it's still out there in the ether. So it'll always be there.
So yes, he is a man who is half a man. He's stupid. He's allegedly sexy, and he's called Flinders. It's Paul the.
Stupid, sexy Flinders, I guess.
Yeah, I was about to throw in the jingle, and I was like, "Oh wait, it's not called that anymore."
I'm not.
But-
No, that man has died a horrifying death, shall we say?
Gone back to his home planet.
Yes, his planet
Self-poochie.
needed him. There, he's poochied. He's poochied out of this podcast. He is poochied.
And of course, the other voice you can hear from the RAD podcast and the Lost Art of WrestleBox is the stowaway, Lewis Ogden.
Yeah, all right.
He's doing fine.
I was going more for Clinton Baptiste then.
Oh,
You know, with a sort of a.
I'm getting the word.
I'm getting the word. John. Is there a John in the audience? 8 people. Yeah, that's me.
So this week we took a look in on episode 5 of that Piece of K thing, which is aptly titled Leonard. Original air date 9th of February 2000. Leonard De Thompkinson even is Britain's oldest serving paperboy. He's about to receive a Bolton Community Award honouring that fact. A simple soul, Leonard finds joy in every aspect of life and sees the good in everyone. The programme follows him on his paper round.
Yeah, and you think originally on this episode it starts off really upbeat. It's like, so you think, oh, this could be sort of like one of the characters you actually sort of like root for in a way. Like, I mean, Mr. Softly Top, you think he's a bit of a dick. The few others you think might possibly, could be a bit of an ass. Like I don't know,
Tom Dale.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he's one of these guys you start off thinking, oh, he's one of the more lovable Peter Kay characters in this, and the only Peter Kay character in this episode.
Yeah, this is a strange one, but I think it kind of, as you work your way through the episode, I think it'll sort of, I'm guessing there's a method to the madness of why he's the only K character for this episode.
Well, this is it. It's Leonard's story, isn't it? It's not sort of like we're going to follow the goings on at an arena. So it's a story of the arena, which is going to have multiple characters. The story sort of just follows one character, so it makes sense that it would just literally just be the one character that Peter Kay portrays.
Yeah, I should probably make mention. With this episode, I watched it originally like a few weeks ago before we did the arena episode, and then sort of like with the build up to the recording of this, I watched the episode again, but with the commentary.
Yeah.
And apparently, according to Pete Kay, this was based on a real life man called Leonard, who worked at one of the local SO garages in his local area. He would just sort of like, he would just come in and just sit down in the garage and just sort of like, go from there.
Did you have like a paper round or anything? I did watch part of the commentary, but
there might have been some mention of him doing sort of like a paper round as well.
The tidbit I got was he used to visit the petrol station in Reliant Robin where Peter Kay worked.
Oh yeah, that might be it. Yeah, because I think it was mentioned of like he drove like a pink freewheeler.
Yes, that rings a bell.
Yeah, I think so.
That does ring a bell actually. But yes, Leonard is one of the more sort of like sympathetic sort of characters that Peter Kay seems to portray. He's not some smarmy guy that's trying to get one up on someone or or he's the boss himself. He's actually just like one guy who's sort of like seems to be very happy-go-lucky sort of thing.
Well, following on from the commentary, it does I think Peter mentions it. He'd tell about all the friends he had, yet he died in 1991. And then I think Peter went to his funeral and was like, the lack of people there was quite upsetting to him.
Yeah.
So
he was there for people, but people weren't there for him.
But another tidbit to mention is it's also apparently Peter Kay's favourite episode.
Yes, he said that on commentary, or one of them said it. Yeah, it's their favourite episode.
I think it was Craig Cash. I think it was Craig Cash that mentioned that this was his favourite episode of the.
Yeah, I didn't think it was
Peter
Kay. Yeah, I didn't think it was Peter Kay. I thought it might have been Patrick or.
I got that off IMDb, like in the trivia bit. So.
They might all like it. It's just he's only mentioned in the commentary that one person liked it. It might, Peter Kay might. Yeah, I can see why. I mean, when you listen to the commentary, they're in absolute fits of laughter about stuff that's. Little jokes that especially like, for example, because Peter Kay knows what it's on about. I mean. This is like mine and Lewis's first time watching this.
Yeah.
And it's not like an inside joke to us, but to Peter Kay, it's like, oh, I remember this. This is funny because of this. We don't have that. It's like we're watching what's on the screen in front of us, where he's got some sort of like background,
emotional connection to it.
Exactly, he's got some emotional connection to it because it's part of his previous experience, which is brought into his comedy writing. Which is good writing, in a way. Well, it is good writing, let's be honest. It's not in a way, it is good writing.
Well, it's the fact he takes stuff from real life, doesn't he, really? Like, he worked at the bingo hall and that, but, of course, he didn't get in the 2 whiskeys, 2 Canada Dry.
Which he wanted.
Well, to be fair, I was nearly dying laughing in work the other I think it was one day last week, and this that pensioner came up. It was a woman though, with the same sort of high pitched voice.
Oh God!
And she ordered something. She's like, "Can I get a Max and a J2O, please?" But we don't have to wear the mask, like, because we're behind like a shield sort of thing.
Yeah.
So but I just had to go. I served as quick as I could, and I just went into the back and just stopped myself from laughing. It's oh
God. Going to hell.
So yeah, the episode opens with Leonard and the customer as he's handing a pensioner a paper and gives her a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah.
As we get the voiceover of Leonard Tompkinson has been delivering papers to the residents of Bolton for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight is the presentation of the Bolton Community Awards. Leonard will receive a special award recognising him as the longest-serving paperboy in Britain.
And that little scene tells you many, many, many things about the Leonard character. That how familiar he is with the locals there. The fact that she's willing to lean in and give him a quick kiss, like he's not a weirdo to her, sort of thing. It's like she knows who he is, and he's been doing it that long, and she's lived at the house for that long. That sort of like they know each other like really well.
Yeah,
they're very familiar with each other, sort of thing. So it's like there's like a little bit of a he's well. What's the word? I'm not saying loved because he isn't. It's nor is it respected. I don't know. I can't think of the word.
It's more just so well known, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
they're accustomed to him because he's been doing it for that long.
That's the word I was looking for. Accustomed.
Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, then we got a shot of a house which appears to be Leonard's. Then we headed inside. Well, first of all we got close up a cross with twinkling lights in the window. Then inside, see dated decor, including one of those little pieces that looks like a can is floating whilst pouring a drink, which looks to be an old Schweppes can or something.
Yeah. Just one sec. Keep going.
We also get some paint pots and models, various old pictures on the wall, newspaper clippings. You get some models from the ceiling, another cross, plus a poster saying, "I am the Lord."
Yeah, there's another mention on a sort of commentary. The outside of Leonard's house, and it cuts as sort of like a close shot of the flashing cross in the window. And Peter just made mention that sort of like the real life Leonard had a cross that was incredibly similar to it, so it was a little added extra for.
If you know, you know, sort of thing. Yeah. If I could say if Peter Kay's mates or people who knew Leonard in real life saw that, they'd go, "Oh yeah." So yeah, it's a nice little touch.
Then we get the voiceover of Leonard has lived on his own since his mother's death 23 years ago. He's unable to officially work and he suffers from angina and is registered disabled, but he remains active by taking part in various charity events and, of course, his paper round. Then we get the cameraman. So how do you feel about tonight? Oh, I felt fantastic and I hadn't slept. I have a million and one things to do. I don't know how I'm going to fit it all in. But then followed up with a line of, "Oh, I never won anything before." With, "Oh, wait, tell a line, close one eye."
Now, this is the thing about Leonard. You notice he's full of little tiny little mini one-liners and really, really naff jokes that he repeats. He knows a couple that he repeats over and over and over again. Ones that I've not heard for 2 decades. Like since I was at school. And like, oh.
But
there's also sort of like a you get the impression like very early that sort of like it's being sort of like being that his only constant has been his mother. He's become and the way we find out later on in the episode how his mother was with him has sort of like come as disadvantaged for him now that his mother's passed away, because there is sort of like there's multiple instances of just sort of like Leonard being incredibly socially awkward, and I think that's sort of like that's the main theme that sort of like is reflected with this episode. It's just like a man who's trying to fit into sort of like some sort of society, but is that socially awkward that it just sort of like gives an impression that like people don't want to engage in him. And I think there's like there's a mention later on of just sort of like it's like a scene of him sort of like carrying this great big massive cross down the street, and Peter Kay makes mention on the commentary. It's just sort of like he was there sort of like preaching the Lord, and sort of like abide with me, and Jesus walks among us and all this stuff, that it sort of gave off the impression to sort of like parents have just been sort of like, oh, keep your kids away from him. And Peter Kay just makes mention of the fact, just sort of like, he was given that stigma when he was nothing
wrong with him.
Nothing, when there was, he wasn't that type of
bad person,
bad person. It's just a case of like he was incredibly socially awkward.
Socially awkward, like, and eccentric as well, because people tend to see some people who are different as, I wouldn't say a threat, but something to be wary of. And he comes across as that way, that he's different to everybody else. And in society, especially back when this was recorded, it was like, oh, keep away from him. He's a weirdo. Yeah, you don't want to go near him. He'd be known around town as he'll have like a nickname, or it's that guy, or like, for example, it's I don't know, the cat guy, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You know these type of people that they don't have a name, they have a nickname, and everyone knows what it is.
They have a nickname and a reputation.
Yes, exactly that. Yes.
And it's interesting. It's interesting because there's a seed like later on in the episode when we get to it where there's quite an interesting way of sort of like the way that they film it. But obviously,
yeah, we'll get to that.
That's when we get to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back to I tell a lie and close one eye. Actually, he does that and turns around as he does it, but he actually does close one eye, which I found quite a. But it's like, at least there's a blink and you'll miss it home. He says, I was going to paint by number set, but the blue was missing. Chips. Then, I also want a CB radio, which he then tries to work and goes, he's an aerial.
Yeah. Which I thought was funny, but then it was like almost no soul on the commentary. It was like, that's a funny line.
Well, there was more like a 10-4 rubber duck as well, which is a nice little callback to
We're in a convoy,
nights.
Yeah. Oh yes. 10-4 rubber duck.
So he then asked, "Do you ever get lonely?" He's like, "No, never. I've got lots of friends. And if you've got lots of friends, and loneliness never shows its face." But then he said something really random, like, "I tried it once, but I kept laughing." I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Then
I think it's in reference to sort of like loneliness, and sort of like, he tried loneliness for half an hour, and all he ended up doing was just laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
Which again is another sort of like sign of like being socially awkward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Then he randomly pulls out a punching nun puppet. She boxes for God. Jab, sister, jab.
It's almost like he's deflecting the question with humour, or trying to. That is what he's trying to do. Like, for example, tried it once and started laughing. Then he brings out the punching nun. It's to deflect. It's to deflect the fact. That's the way I pulled it. He's actually lonely. He's just not wanting to admit that because he wants to keep a cheery, like, outer, like, image.
Well, he does kind of seem to jump randomly from one thing to something else, completely random, like off topic or whatever.
Oh yeah, he's very scatterbrained as well.
Which it comes through momentarily after this part, because he shows a greeting card that has an upside-down cross. He got his pen friend Walter, who's in prison in Alabama.
Fucking upside-down cross on the front.
Walter is his. Did you say it's pen pal in Alabama?
Yes.
Pen pal,
yeah.
Pen pal in Alabama, and he just makes mention as sort of like Walter. He had a blackout in 1974, and when he came round in 1978, 23 people were unaccounted for. And then the guy off camera just sort of like goes, "Oh, do you think he'll ever get out?" And then just sort of like off the cuff, Leonard goes, "Oh no, he's on death row."
Well, he does also throw in there. Well, he says he's innocent. One day, when he's free, he's going to live in the mountains.
He'll be his assistant farmer.
But then it quickly jumps from that to, he shows, there he is. That's Walter there. There's a picture of like his mugshot. Then got a picture. He's like, that's my mum when she was a dinner lady. And but then randomly at the same picture, that's a little girl. She's been in a coma since Halloween. Which I'm sure is mentioned at something. Was it Ice Cream Man Cometh?
Possibly.
I don't know. I don't think I listened to the commentary with that episode, because I think I remember you guys saying that there was nothing to glean from it.
I think it's a line it's either in Ice Cream Man Cometh or in the club. I'm sure there's another mention of a girl who's been in a coma or something.
Might have been in the club.
I think it's in the club.
Yeah.
I think it might have been in the club.
Yeah, so, I'm leaning towards that.
Again, just sowing that seed.
You have to watch it and see.
So then he has a picture of his mum at the cenotaph laying a wreath saying she got arrested.
Laying a white wreath.
And then along with another where I took that one with the camera she bought me, but I broke it after I tipped over Mary's dog. So it's the cameraman then says, "Who's Mary?" Oh, Mary Duck. I used to go to school with her. I'd say, how's your brother Donald? Hey, you having that one? But then he goes, first girl ever kissed. She lives in Australia now. She used to have enormous.
And
Does a hand gesture for tits, then says, used to have a restaurant kitchen table. But as I was just saying then about, like, as you were saying as well, Paul, about him being a bit scatterbrained, you literally jumped straight from that to, oh, hey, what was that drummer called it? Muppet Show.
And he's
Animal.
Animal.
Yeah, Animal, that's the one. And he's like, oh, I finished it now. I can send it off.
Yeah, he's like doing a crossword in the paper.
Was it a Jimbo 6 or something? Jimbo 8 or whatever it was?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. No idea what it is.
But I don't know if you guys know this as well, but you can actually see Peter Kay's original hair creeping out from under his wig at points.
Yes, really at the back. We also haven't described Leonard's look yet. It's sort of like, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, if they go onto our Instagram or Facebook, they can take a look at a picture of him.
Absolutely. But I would say he's sort of like, looks like Captain Birdseye after he's been at sea for far too long and run out of shaving products.
It's a teetotal Captain Birdseye.
There you go.
No, so essentially Leonard is I'd sort of say a short man.
Yeah.
It's hard to put an age on him though, because of like the fact he has pretty much like just white hair and like a big white beard.
Well, this is it. I took from it. It was like it's weird because he's got an auntie who looks a similar age in a way to the character. Whether it's sort of like the friend is an auntie or something like that or other. But he's also, like I say, he's been doing paper round for 30 years. And his mum originally did it, but his mum's been dead for a while. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how old? It's like, is he really old?
Well, they made mention in commentary that the real life Leonard passed away at the age of 58.
Right.
So
that explains a lot, actually.
You never know with sort of like the time period. I mean, sort of like, I would have thought sort of like early to mid 50s.
Yeah, I will go with that, actually. Now you've mentioned that, I would go early to mid 50s.
I would say. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, 50s. Yeah, you can be that grey and white at that age. I mean, you could also have been blonde, just really, really white. I don't know. But yeah, age-wise, it did confuse me. Like I say, 'cause he's been paper rounding for over 30 years, almost on the dot. Yeah, so I was like, I was like, is he really old or is he just old?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, actually,
when I first watched it, I put him down to being like a pensioner, and it's like,
that's how I portrayed it, because he's very similar to a guy I used to look after when I used to work in mental health. So, and he's like very similar mannerisms, and some of the guys who we see later on in the episode are exactly the same, and you tend to find it sort of like dementia, sort of like, that sort of thing, especially later on. But yeah, I had him down as a lot older for that reason, because of the way he was behaving, the hoarding and things like that.
Could have been, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. It looks like a mix of things. I think it's sort of like, it's like a mixing pot of many like issues, isn't it? I think Peter Kay's trying to portray its mental health, its loneliness, it's all sorts of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So then we jump to the conference room where numerous staff are setting up for the event at the Bolton Oaks House Hotel.
Yep.
We get a heavily pregnant woman putting up a board, and we hear a video of what the award's about. Cut to her sitting down is Catherine Tate.
It is Catherine Tate, yes. A younger Catherine Tate before she was massively famous. Well, I say massively famous, but...
This is about 5 years before the Catherine Tate show, isn't it, I think, roughly?
It is, yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
So...
I think the only thing that I've really sort of like enjoyed Catherine Tate was when she did a season as the companion in Doctor Who, in sort of like 2007, 2008. She's really darn good fucking companion along with David Tennant. Like really, really good. Like properly underrated. But that's the only thing that I've really ever enjoyed of her. The only other memory I can think of is just sort of like her being on sort of like 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, and she couldn't do like the most simple fucking maths equation. And she's just there sort of like going, well, you're looking at me as if it's easy to do. And it's just sort of like it literally was.
I think the only thing I've seen her is when she played Nan on Comic Relief Deal or No Deal.
Oh, Deal or No Deal, yeah. Yeah, that
and
was
she's
it.
like she's slagging off the other contestants. Like there's a woman like called Sharon or something. He's like, yeah, she's a fat cow. She's a fat cow.
See, I've never been a fan of Catherine Tate, really. Not been. It's not. She's not. She. I don't know what it is. Just never found her stuff that entertaining, really.
It's normally the case with sort of like most comedians that you don't really like. I mean, they have a sort of like they have a style of humour that will click with some people, but then you sort of like look at it and you're like, don't get it.
Yeah, that's exactly
really
that.
Don't get it.
Exactly that. I mean, I know people that do, like, and I understand why they do. It's just something doesn't click with me. But that's not taken away from, her acting skills or anything like that. So,
Yep.
just not for me.
There you go. So then we get asked about the voting system, and she reveals, well, there's a cut-out section in the paper for which they nominate someone, and they give a reason why in 20 words or less.
Yeah.
And we have awards including Best Lollipop Lady, Best Barmaid, Best Bridesmaid, Best Chip Shop, Best Pie Shop, Best Bin Man, Mr. Millennium, and the Award for Achievement in the Bolton Community.
Yeah. See, this is why we used to do things before social media. We used scraps of paper and ink, and then we posted it in something called a letterbox.
I mean, it flags up later on, but the sort of like one of the nominees for Best Lollipop Lady is a woman by the name of Donna Gash.
Yes, who was in the episode on, was it the Ice Cream Man Cometh? She was the ice cream lady. Wasn't she not?
No, I think it was wasn't she Michelle Coffey? In sort of like the talent trek, the in the club, and then sort of like the talent treks for Phoenix Nights.
Oh, Donna Gash.
Yeah, I think so, because I don't remember there being an ice cream lady in the Ice Cream Man Cometh.
There was when they were doing the chase and he had to stop.
You were in the crossing guard.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Also, for the record, it's actually Doreen Gash, but
Doreen Gash, yeah.
Oh, Doreen Gash. Yeah,
you got the D right. You got the D. Always thinking of the D.
So then,
what brush are you freaking painting me in? Cheeky bastard.
Shut up, you soft bastard.
I don't drink out of both taps.
So we cut to a street and hear Leonard saying he doesn't just deliver papers, but also the word of the Lord as well, as he carries a big cross over his shoulder uphill, followed by a group of kids. Then starts quoting Bob Marley and drops a joke of, how's Bob Marley like his donuts? We're jamming.
Oh, God. Jamming. Fucking, that was primary school for me, that. Jesus.
It's up there with sort of like what the Mexicans put underneath the carpet. Underlay!
Well, there's one of my trainers when I was back at 21 TV in Preston many moons ago. A guy called Crooks. He was a hilarious guy, and he was one of the other trainers called Gil. And he'd always just motion out to him. How's Bob Marley like his donuts? We're jamming. But it'd be like 3 or 4 times a week, like per lesson sort of thing. Like he just wouldn't get sick of it, and we would. It's like a full-on proper like dad joke. I'm like, oh God, not again.
It's like the ones I keep telling my little one, for example. What's a cow's favourite hobby? Going to the movies. Yeah, the kids love it. Yeah, they make you groan.
So we see Leonard carrying his cross towards a group of people at the bus stop and proceed and asks, "All right, cockers," before he plods it down in front of someone's front door.
Once again, I'll relate to the commentary. Peter Kay notes that this sort of like upcoming scene was part of a real life sort of like thing that happened with the real life Leonard when him and his mum were waiting for the 574 bus to Wigan.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of like, and it's done in it. It's sort of like similar style of just sort of like, trying to have conversations with people, and everyone's just sort of like, looking off to the side, just trying to avoid him as much as possible.
Yeah.
Well, he asks a random woman if she's like evidently trying to look away and like, if I don't look at me, he's not there, sort of thing. As he's saying to her, "You've been on TV before," and I'm up for what? I'm up for an award tonight. But then it stops. And, "Do you believe I found God in Fleetwood in 1970?"
Find many things in Fleetwood. God isn't one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say. Imagine if you did.
But then we hear a mum as the kid's acting up, saying, "Oh, we get off the road." And as Leonard points out, "Yeah, stay away from the road, little one," or whatever. The bus pulls up as Leonard's trying to console the kid in the pram. Tries telling the kid a joke, which doesn't go down well to a baby who can't understand him.
Yeah,
the lad says to his granddad, "Will you make a noise like a frog?" He says, "Why?" He says, "Well, the lad says, Dad says, when we croak, we're going to Florida." Then trying to push back the rain cover, the mum says, No, don't do that." And then goes to help what appears to be a young child up onto the bus. But keep in mind, these are the old style buses with steps. There was no easy access of prams or wheelchairs or anything.
These were like climbing a fucking small mountain to get onto the bus.
Oh, just a bit. But then as Leonard lifts him, "Hey, up you go, little fella." As the guy turns around.
And it literally is a little fella.
So, "Hey, get off me, a dick." Which leaves Leonard looking a bit awkward and embarrassed, who then walks off.
Oh god! On the commentary as well, though, Coxie was like, "Oh, do you know what? I wish he had a beard."
Sort of reminds me of an old.
Wanted him to have a beard.
Sort of reminds me of an old Billy Connolly joke. Just sort of like, there's a guy sort of like in Manhattan, New York, and he sees this sort of like, child running across the road, and he immediately thinks, "Oh my God, there's a child in the middle of the road!" So literally runs out, grabs him, runs to the sidewalk, plops him down. And he's like, "It was a wee man." He sort of like does like the symbolism to say that he's got a moustache and with a pipe, and he's like, "Fuck off."
Oh dear. So we then see Leonard walking with a cross through like some sort of square in Bolton, which looks like it's out the front of the Bolton Albert Halls. As he's singing, he's got the whole world in his hands. We revealed that the cross has a wheel on the base, but tries to stand it up and continue singing while doing so, but then gets a handful of people singing and say, "Oh, I can't do the actions properly because I'm holding this."
Yeah. This is what I wanted to bring up, is just sort of like they did a discreet sort of like way of filming it, because the way that it's shot is it's sort of like done from sort of high up, and apparently they set the camera up in the upstairs of sort of like a Clinton card shop that was just across the way, and they sort of like they did it sort of like discreetly, and obviously Peter Kay is there as Leonard the character, and he's just there sort of like doing probably what the real life Leonard would probably be doing, and he makes mention on the commentary just sort of like how interesting it was to see sort of like the reactions from people as he's doing his sort of like his routine. It's just sort of like I don't know, sort of like an experiment, a study into sort of like how people react to certain other people, certain eccentric people in real life. I just thought it was quite a little interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, he was saying how surprised he is the amount of people that used to walk up to him while he was doing what he was doing. He said it's one of probably the hardest things he's ever done.
Well, he stands by ovation a bit, and then as he gets kids going past on bikes doing wheelies, he at one point stops. Hey, that's cool, that.
Is it cool or that's grand, that? Something like that. Something like that. He compliments the guy doing a wheelie in front of him on his BMX. He's like, ooh, that's cool.
Mm.
But then he carries on, doesn't he? And people ask him, like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah, he gets like the group of like 4 young lads, like one of them goes up to him, he's like, is that what you're doing this for? And he's like, something like, oh, I'm telling the word of the Lord or something.
They want some lad. Oh, you okay?
Yeah, my finger logged me out, so.
Oh, weird.
I'm still here. It's.
Alright. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm back now. So he chains up his cross, which I've been stitches.
Fucking yeah.
I was gonna say. That's literally what I had next to my note. Is that he like literally bike chain with sort of like, you know, the adhesive plastic all around it, literally just sort of like chains it up.
Yeah, to a fucking bike rack.
Yeah.
So then it starts talking about charity shops and how he loves a good bargain. He shows us some aftershave he's going to wear for tonight. A Minder annual. Along with a Rusty Lee 12-inch vinyl of Barbados. But then, I've never been Barbados, but I've been Landudno. Then spots a man who he only knows as the Duke.
Oh, God.
He's got his back to Leonard, who then turns around, draws finger guns, and shouts, John Wayne!
It's one of the situations where you feel bad for laughing, but you can't help it.
It's more the fact that I've seen people like that before in, like, when I've been in Blackpool and stuff, or, like, even in, like, Manchester and stuff.
Yeah, you get these sort of, like, kooky characters in sort of like probably every major city in, well, at least England.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was saying before about people not losing their names and getting nicknames and everyone knowing them by that. Like, for example, the Duke.
But even Leonard, as Leonard's walking off, he's like, he's a bit fuddled, isn't Ted? But he then brings up his angina, saying, "Oh, I've had 3 anginograms since January. I've got narrow veins like Jack Duckworth."
Yeah.
Now this was an interesting bit because, like, literally as he's talking about his sort of like angina and like thin veins, they're sort of like doing a following shot, I should say, of Leonard walking past these sort of like, you know, these shops, and just out of nowhere there's this like random fella that just comes up and starts walking along with him, and apparently like... Peter Kay on the commentary is just basically going, it wasn't part of the script. It's like literally just this random fella just came up and started talking to me as we were walking along and sort of like doing the shot. Yeah. And Peter makes mention as well, you attract your own kind.
But the thing is, though, he was dressed very similarly, wasn't he, as well, to how Leonard was dressed.
He
just completed the look with like a hat, didn't he? And just he looked very similar, sort of like. I was like, oh my God, because I heard that bit in the commentary. I was like, holy shit, it's spot on.
Yeah.
He generally just walked up to him, caught him up behind him, just started whittering away to him.
But the back end of the conversation as he's talking to guys, I'm going to go to the bus station and get some dinner. So then he goes in and he's telling the staff member the same joke, the same frog joke, and that's where she's been. And says, I've been off with the runs. But then Leonard mentions, a lot of people getting that millennium bug that's going round.
Loads of people got it.
But then she's like, I shouldn't be in by rights, but my son wants a Playmobil pirate ship for his birthday.
Oh God, those things. I remember wanting one of those as a kid. They don't go back from 1999. Jesus Christ, they go way back. Look, I remember seeing them in the Argos catalogue in like 1993. Mm-hmm. And just like, I want one of those, Sansa.
Well, she's like, oh, he's pirate mad. And she's like, even had his younger sister walking the plank at 2 a.m.
Oh, fucking hell.
She's like, I'm sat on the toilet. I hear a thud. I shit myself.
So you got to think, was that real? Did she really shit herself, or was it just a figure of speech?
So I hear a thud. I shit myself. I go and investigate to see the younger sibling face down the floor sobbing, while the son sat in bed singing shanties.
Fucking hell.
And this is another mention on sort of like the commentary about sort of like, you know, this converted bus shelter in sort of like a pie shop or whatever.
Yeah.
And Peter makes mention to Paddy McGuinness, oh yeah, we'd still go in there, but obviously at the time of recording the audio commentary, it's like, yeah, we normally go in there sort of like every Thursday. Go in there for the Smackhead special, which is pie, chips, and peas for £1.20, and literally like everybody that's involved with sort of like the commentary track is like literally in heaps of laughter for probably like a good 20 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely in hysterics, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good Smackhead special.
Well, she does ask him. She's like, usual. And he's like, yeah, please. And he's like, oh, what is it? Is it beans? No. Peas? Oh, yeah, please. And then, you coming to the event tonight? It's a big one. But then, I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in trouble getting a sitter. But then he's sat eating his usual and informs us he normally eats with his friend 321 Tommy. But he's in hospital having his pacemaker looked at.
So he's sitting there listening for beep.
Then so like, you can't live your life like that, can you? Then we hear a smash and a John Wayne as the Duke has smashed something in the cafe.
You just see your body. You can just see him holstering his imaginary pistols like in slow motion.
What was it? She's the staff member. She's like, Eileen, escort him out. Oh dear. So then we're outside the newsagents now. As the voiceover says, regular as clockwork, Leonard is stopping at Harry Haroon's newsagents to pick up his afternoon round papers. He puts on his lottery numbers and gets a quarter of strawberry bonbons. With Harry Haroon here, played by TV legend Ted Robbins, also known as Banana Grove's Den Perry.
I'm still reminded of that video I sent in the chat of this sort of like, you know, building on fire. It's obviously in Britain somewhere, and obviously the camera's focused on it, and it cuts to a person that's just sort of like got like a piece of paper held up, and it's just written on it as Den Perry did it.
Oh dear. But there's mention of something about when he puts his lottery on, and Harry says something like, "Have you been any luck with it or something?" And Leonard says, "Oh, I've been Hitler. I've had one ball for 3 weeks." It's like, oh Jesus.
He's blue, he's effing and jeffing, he's blue. Bring it up Hitler, he's blue.
He asks Harry if he's been busy, and again the big night is mentioned, but Harry has an excuse that Janine hasn't been well, and the foot's come back. It's Leonard asks, oh, where's it been? Hey, you having that one?
There's these sort of like little Leonardisms of just sort of like, you know, little one-liners. There's one that comes up in a little bit that is just sort of, it was tied for sort of like probably my favourite line of the episode. But obviously that's in a little bit like.
Well, Leonard goes pick up his paper bag and grabs, oh, these are heavy. To which Harry replies, yeah, bastards took a Tandy catalogue in this week.
Now I imagine like Tandy was sort of the what was it?
It was the old electronics shop, wasn't it? I think.
Right. Because
I remember my uncle had I'm sure he had like a Tandy laptop or something.
Right.
I'm going to refresh my memory now.
Yeah, because I'd sort of like it probably would have been in similar vein to it was the store that was a little bit like Argos, but it wasn't as popular. I can't remember quite rightly what the shop was called. Or like this, the
It was Index.
Index, that's it. Index. I always remember sort of like, like old style newspapers. Like you'd normally get sort of like an index catalogue with it.
Hmm.
And sort of like I thought it might have been sort of like in similar vein.
No, it was Tandy was like the sort of British spin-off of Radio Shack.
Right, I get you.
Because I remember they had one in Preston, if I recall rightly, in the not Fishergate, the one the other shop. I mean, it's the George's shopping centre or something, St George's.
Yeah, I think so.
There was a Tandy shop there because I remember my uncle had a Tandy laptop. Like you couldn't really do much on it.
That sounds iffy, just sort of like hearing the title of it. Laptop.
You couldn't really do much on it, and you could just about play Hangman, but it'd take about 10 minutes to load up a word. So
not a byword in terms of quality then.
At the time, this was like mid-90s, so it was like you kind of at the time like technology was like, but this was probably like a £600-700 laptop at the time sort of thing. Whereas now like you can probably find it in a bloody charity shop at about 20p.
Yeah.
But that's if it still works. But
actually, I can mind you thinking about it. I can just remember using like floppy disks on like old PC terminals. So I do have somewhat of an old school mindset at times.
The good old floppy disk that got me through many years of high school. Till I broke it, but Leonard gets asked if he has his car, but he said it's still been mended. But he's got his trusty trolley. But then there's a bit of an exchange in the shop with, bye, Leonard, see you later. Yeah, ta-ra. God bless, Jesus be with you and all that. And then said, see you, wouldn't want to be you.
Oh, Lord.
We get a voiceover from Harry saying Leonard's a bit eccentric. I mean, he's done the papers for years. Whilst in the shop, we get a woman waiting at the gate for a paper as Leonard comes up and hands it over, plus he gives her a kiss on the cheek, as said in the beginning. Then, cutting back to the shop, Harry reveals Leonard uses the paper with his mum, pushing a huge pan around. Then mention how the women of the area will be lost without him. But then asked, why is that? And he's like, he does everything for him. Painting, shopping, up ladders, down spouts. Well, as he's talking, we hear the bell go and someone enters the shop as Harry's mentioned how it takes him 3 hours to do the paper round. As the voice in the background goes, you got any poppers?
Hey, can you not see I'm being filmed here?
But then says, try them there, pure gold. Blow your tits off.
And it was just sort of like, the phrase blow your tits off was said in sort of like similar vein to sort of like Den Perry saying dog rough.
But then he mentions how Leonard is honest, at least, as half the lads just dump their papers in the canal. Then the bloke buying the poppers covers the camera and says, I'll have them in a Twix.
Literally walks right into the shop.
To which then Harry remarks, will you shift?
Such like a northern response, that will you shift?
Oh dear. But it's also the fact that he's got like his denim shirt on, his glasses, and he's there like popping like chewing gum, like a sort of typical like news agent you get at the time.
Yeah.
All right, but then we go back with Leonard. He's talking about his car, Hercules, saying how he has a sticker on it called "Don't follow me." That says, well, it says "Don't follow me, follow Jesus."
Follow Jesus.
But it blew up last Tuesday, so it's in the garage. But he's got his trusty trolley, which he found in a skip.
Yeah, it only needed sort of like a wipe down and then sort of like, new frame to it, and off you go, Bob's your uncle.
Which again reminds me of a bloke who used to see around my area, who had always seen on his bike cycling to and from the beach with a metal detector. And one time I was walking down because I was going to a mate's house, I was getting the bus, and one of the streets I was walking down, like a skip in their driveway, and he's coming towards his bike and pulls into this like outside his driveway, gets off his bike and just starts rummaging through this bloody skip. Alright. Getting mad.
Yeah. Well, that's the mindset of some people.
Yeah.
There's a guy that was famous for going up and down the promenade in Blackpool. I can't remember what he looked like, whatever. But he was like, he had a reputation for going through every single litter bin, opening them up and going through them like 3 o'clock in the morning. But what you tend to find as well is a lot of the takeaways used to chuck a lot of the spare food that was on the promenade just straight in the litter bins back in the day. Because it saved them on storing it and getting it cooked, taken away as commercial waste.
Yeah.
So they used to chuck them in the litter bins. I mean, once upon a time, I remember going... So I used to work cleaning pubs years and years and years ago. And you'd see these types of characters walking around because they'd be sticking... Like, there'll be trays of hot dogs just dumped next to a litter bin.
Right.
And then rummaging through, like, whatever they can find.
Well, I remember there was a homeless guy who always used to rummage through the bin when I was at Summerfield. Which is another story for another time, sort of thing. But there was this guy was quite the skip guy was quite an old guy who used to wear like a purple jacket and like a sort of scruffy shirt, scruffy pants, and like hair was a mess. But he always used to have this old bike and a metal detector.
Yeah, right.
You probably, if you lived like sort of around South Shore, you'll have seen him at some point, but he's probably dead by now because it was years ago. So,
bless him.
So then we carry on with the route. As Leonard's walking up the road, there's a bloke he reveals is called Carl, who waves at cars.
Oh yes.
And the only way I can describe Carl is looking like he belongs at a festival in the field somewhere, raving his tits off.
Yes, absolutely.
And they make mention on a commentary that this character was based off of somebody that I can't remember whether it was necessarily Peter Kay or it might have been somebody else that sort of like mentioned it to Peter. But this sort of like character is based on somebody that they saw do a similar thing in Liverpool, apparently.
Yeah, this is true.
And as Leonard makes mention with Carl, he's a bit radio rental.
Yeah, he says he's dead excited because he's just seen one of them Jeeps, one of them Japanese ones.
One of them Japanese Jeeps has beeped to me, but then as Leonard walks off, he just say, there's some cars and beep, he just say, Carl, go, bollocks to you.
That's when he comes up with the remark, it's a bit radio rental.
Then we see Leonard walking past a group of kids, so he doesn't know how people can get bored of it. The bit he loves most about doing his papers is the different people he sees and kids growing up, etc. Then approaches the gate of Mrs. Balfour, better known as Janice Connolly, who plays Holy Mary in Phoenix Nights.
Hey. And he's telling the same joke about the granddad croaking, which I believe is the third mention.
I just call it the Florida joke now, for sake of ease.
The Florida joke, yes.
The Florida joke. I believe
she doesn't seem to get it, and then like, there's that awkward bit of silence between them where he just goes, got your diabetic chocolate.
Oh, thanks.
Might have melted in my sack, though. Might have melted a bit in my sack, though.
But then he gets the same with her, where he's like, oh, big night tonight, isn't it? And he's like, oh, yeah, you're coming. He's like, oh, I can't, I've got something on or whatever. But she's like, oh, that's a nice goal you got on. And he's like, oh, I don't know what it's going to be like nowadays, do you? Can't chance it.
And then literally just sort of like, a phrase that's probably uttered pretty much all the time in passing. It's like, oh yeah, well, you never know what this weather's going to be doing, do you? Weather can't make its mind up.
Another proper northern thing.
Yeah.
Like, can't make his mind up.
He cracks on because he still said he's got stuff to do. So then she goes in and he spots a man who he thinks is Turkey George. Claiming he's the right character. He drives a big flash car with turkeys in the boot.
A big flash car is a Ford Granada.
He's at Bolton Market on Tuesdays and Chorley Market on Thursdays. Well, as I noted it, from the way they shot it from a distance, it looks like a BMW. But as you get closer, you realise it's a bloody Ford.
Yeah. It's a big old, it's the last generation Ford Granada that he's got. Now, I would say it's not exactly the luxury model that he thought it was.
So I think it's part of the joke when sort of like
Yeah.
Leonard's talking about sort of like, it's got this flash car with turkeys in the boot, and it turns out to be sort of like, a boxy old Ford.
Yeah.
So Leonard approaches the man and says, "All right." The guy looks confused and mutters, "Yeah, not bad." Then Leonard, "It's not him. It's not him."
What is that? He's got turkeys for cheap. That's his motto. Turkeys for cheap. Do you get it?
Turkeys for cheap.
You having that one?
So then Leonard arrives at a house to get his hair cut. As he uses the letterbox to knock, his hairdresser family friend Jackie Busher opens the door as Leonard asks if she's ready for 4 o'clock, but she mentions it's nearly 4:45.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But then as she turns and says, "Oh, you best come in," he grabs her arse and, "Oh, that's that ducky's back again." Which you couldn't get away with nowadays. Well, you couldn't get away with any time, but...
No, it just shows how socially awkward he is.
Oh, yeah, like, it makes me think of people and that I know or have known over time where it's like, it's the sort of thing they'd do way back when, before all this sort of, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that, like PC brigade stuff.
Yes.
Nowadays, like
PC sexual harassment sort of thing. So,
as then Leonard mentions, "This is my Auntie Jackie. Say hello, Jackie." "Oh, hello." But it's debatable, like, is she an auntie? Is she an auntie because she's like his mum's friend?
Yeah.
So she's not technically an auntie, but...
I'm aiming towards that because auntie can be very nondescript. Because you see, an auntie, it could be blood related, or it could be just your mum's mate. And because you see him that often, it's your auntie.
Well, I mean, sort of like, with Morrison, like his youngest Nate, I'm always referred when it comes to Nate as Uncle Lewis, and even though I'm not sort of like a blood relation, so I imagine it's sort of like in a similar vein, really.
It could also be the fact that it's someone he looks up to, and someone sort of like, in a way, he sees them as they're looking out for him. So maybe, it's not his mum, who, maybe she can be my auntie.
Mm.
So it could be that. There's many different reasons that it could be his auntie. He calls her his auntie, which isn't really explored. But yeah, you can work. We can figure that out for ourselves, I guess.
Well,
I know exactly what you're going on about, because we discussed this before we started recording.
There's a bit before this where Leonard goes, "Oh, what's for dinner?" And she goes, "You on a butty."
On a butty.
But then Peter Kay slightly breaks character by like, you get a little giggle, like the standard Peter Kay voice. You get a little giggle, it's the sort of thing that he does. And then, so what are we having then? Highlights, streaks. To which, streaks. What will my girlfriend say? And then, as Auntie Jackie replies, "People have killed them all." Whoa!
And he just giggles. He just giggles in response.
But that might be that thing. If it was to me, I think that's Peter Kay just breaking character and going, "Oh, you can't take out, just leave it in." Like,
Yeah.
But then it's surely that thing of like with Leonard's social awkwardness, it'd be like, "Oh yeah, maybe I did," sort of thing. Probably. Knowing how he'd react to it, like
not beyond the realms of possibility. Jesus, it just looks a little bit of a dark turn.
So we get Jackie showing us photos, and along with the remark that maybe she loved him a bit too much. And back with the haircut, we get the recurring line of, "Oh, big night tonight." But then, as she's also cutting it, you can again see some of Peter Kay's own dark hair under the wig.
Yeah,
towards the back.
It's at the back. Yeah, that it's most prevalent.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to hide all that dark hair though, in such a light thing. I mean, even just one strand hangs out the bottom, it's properly noticeable in it. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, so it can't be out. You got to expect that.
No, yeah.
But then back with Jackie, she puts Leonard down to a T. He's everybody's friend, but he's got no friends. His only real friend was his mother.
Yeah. Yeah, because they did everything together, didn't he? I mean, even when he did his first paper round, first few years, his mum came with him.
Yeah.
You know, so they did everything together.
So, but then back in the chair, we get Leonard once again telling the Florida joke. Whereas Jackie, who's clearly not paying attention, goes, "Oh, whereabouts?" As she's sorting his hair out.
God.
So then he checks over his haircut and, "Oh, what do you think of that? Oh, it's champion, that." But then back at his house, he pulls out his suit. "Oh, got my suit out. Oh, it smells a bit."
Yeah, it's his Sunday best. Last time he wore it was to his mum's funeral, and then there's another little sad bit where he's just sort of like, "God, I wish she could be here tonight," and he sort of like, grips the wardrobe door that's sort of like open, and then he's in the dress mirror, sort of like putting his aftershave on. He mentions sort of like the guy off camera is like, "Oh, you would have liked my mum. Yeah, she always said I was a handful. Even when she was in labour for 36 hours, then the nurses noticed she hadn't taken her tights off."
The guy starts laughing. And he goes, "What are you laughing at? That's real, that is. That happened."
But he does follow it up with, I know everybody thinks I'm odd, I think everybody's odd. He says to the cameraman, "What hand do you wait your bum with?" He's like, "What? What hand do you wait your bum with?" And the cameraman just sort of goes, "Right. Oh, well, I use toilet paper."
Now who's weird, eh? Who's the weirdo?
So at the award show...
That joke goes back to primary school. That goes way back.
So we're at the award show now. Everyone's mingling and munching on hors d'oeuvres as Leonard's munching on quiche. "Oh, I've had 4 quiche already."
Fucking hell.
Valerie then walks over. Leonard kisses on one cheek but misses the other.
Yeah.
Then just remarks, "Hey, look at that."
When's it due?
It's going to explode.
But then, "Everything all right for you?" And he says, "No, I'm sweating like a pregnant nun." Then he spots Ruth from the bus station cafe, who wanders over. "Hey, Ruth!" Wanders over, kisses on the cheeks awkwardly, and who walks in? Alan!
Hey!
He then remarks, "What's that smell?"
But we're jumping over the fact that when he leaned in to kiss her, he proper sort of like awkwardly sort of like was overly familiar with her. Which again emphasises the social awkwardness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also that thing because she's like a few inches taller than him, isn't she? Sort of thing.
Yeah. She's sort of like leaning back away from him as well, though.
Yeah.
But you got to think as well, though, does he sort of like fancy her sort of thing? Because he's got a picture of her on the bedside table when she was beauty queen in 1981.
Oh, yes, he mentions that in the bus station, doesn't he?
Yes. So it's whether he actually fancies her as well. But then, obviously, when Alan comes in and says sort of like a fella, I don't know if it was accidental or not, but he brings up the fact that she told him that, says, how's your stomach? Are you still,
How's the diarrhea?
How's the diarrhea? Yeah.
was the wording.
Yeah.
But he says, "I get some of that quiche down you. That'll put you right."
That'll put you right. Yeah.
As we then get Valerie, who's presenting the Lollipop Lady Award, to Doreen Gash.
Hey.
And we come to the final award of the night now, as Valerie's introduced a special guest to the final award, having just hot footed it from a production of Oliver. Down your drink, because it's fucking Bob Carroll, Jesus, spit the dog.
Fuck downing your drink. The actual Bob Carroll G's is there. Whatever, he's like, a bottle of whiskey, down it. You don't need to drink no more. The actual man has arrived.
But what strangely, he does actually appear to be in like his Oliver gear with like a sports jacket on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get a brief introduction. He introduces Leonard. Leonard goes up to accept his award, and even Bob mentions if he has to share, it smells like a French brothel.
Well, he does it by a spit the dog, doesn't he? So what do you mean he smells like a French brothel? No, he doesn't.
Is there not a line or something? That's not what a brothel smells like or something.
That's what French brothel smells like, yeah.
Well then, Leonard, trying to ease the tension, awkwardly asks, "What hand do you want your bum with?" Whilst Bowie ignores the question. Do you want to say a few words?
And he's like, I don't know what to say.
And then it just starts with the Florida joke again.
As we fade to black.
Yeah.
And then in his back garden, he's throwing a party to say goodbye to his new friends, the film crew, as he passes around quiche and garlic bread.
Garlic bread?
Was the garlic bread involved? I thought it was just quiche.
Oh, it might have been. I'm sure there was like I'm sure there's like another plate at one point where there's like some garlic bread on it or something, maybe.
There is some sort of like pizza-based sort of product, whether it's pizza itself or garlic bread.
It probably would have been garlic bread, knowing that it's a Peter Kay production.
Yeah, it's odds are it's odds. I'd like to think it's garlic bread. There we go. It's not alluded to.
So then he gets asked if he has any final words as the credits roll, and he says, "What, you mean like Jerry Springer?" and starts with, "Life is like a motorway, my friend," and carries on as the cross is visible behind him, and even ends up with, "Sometimes you need to pull into services."
Need to pull into services and have yourself a toasted tea cake. Yeah. And remember, if you go for a jar, forget about the car.
Yeah.
I think he throws in one of the lines from Alan as well. Not Alan. Is it Alan? The ARC.
Oh.
I'm sure he throws in a line from him or something, possibly, unless I'm just thinking of something else. But
maybe, I'm not sure.
But next week, Leonard revels in his newfound fame. He's on the front page of the paper he's been delivering. I think I'm folding it special way so that don't get a crease on my face. And he goes to stick it for a letterbox. And evidently gets chewed up by a dog. I'll put another one for later. Reunited with Hercules, he waves down Carl as he passes and gets a special guest in the form of Walter.
Yeah.
Who it turns out been pardoned and has come to save his soul.
I've come to save your soul.
Do you want a cup of tea first?
Well, it's more the fact like he goes to like hug Leonard. Leonard is just sort of like, "Oh no, get away from me," sort of thing, and looks awkwardly uncomfortable. And it's like, "You want a cup of tea first?"
Which is quite ironic that, sort of like he has this sort of like socially awkward effect on like other people, and then sort of like when someone similar comes along, he adopts sort of like the same personality that most people would have for him.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting.
A shot of Leonard, who simply says, "My mum used to say, God couldn't be everywhere at once. That's why they made Leonard." And it just fades to black.
Yep. End of episode.
And that's our episode on Leonard.
Hey.
Now, I couldn't really look at this episode of it being an episode for a comedy show. I looked at it. It came across to me as sort of like a more episode based upon somebody who's like, you know, socially awkward and sort of like going about their day-to-day lives with this social awkwardness. So
it's like it's trying to deliver a message as opposed to just pure comedy show.
Yeah, and you know, for the most, I mean, there was like a couple of chuckles here and there, but overall, I thought it was quite sort of like a bittersweet, sad episode to be watching.
There was some very somber moments in it. You know, like when he's getting ready for the events evening, and he talks about the fact that he wore that suit for the last time he wore it for his mum's funeral, and other bits and bobs. It's like he really sympathised with the guy.
Yeah,
and it's a completely different approach from the rest of the series that we just watched, because everyone's got some sort of backstory to them in a non-tragic kind of way. There's always some sort of laughter in the backstory, but it's a case of Leonard's been brought up by, well, let's face it, he was mollycoddled by his mum.
Yeah.
And he to the point where he relied on her, and now she's gone. He doesn't know what to do with himself, so he's awkward in multiple situations. And this is why I was, because of that, he's registered disabled, this, that, and the other. I don't know, maybe because I don't know if the registered disabled is referencing some sort of mental disability. I'd imagine so, but that's what I'm alluding to.
It could be in a way. Like, I think it's probably one of them. I think if it was, they would have made more mention. Possibly made more mention of it now. Like,
maybe
now, or vice versa, sort of thing.
This is it. Maybe the registered disability thing was maybe a bit more throwaway than I'm taking on board. Perhaps, I don't know, but
well, it's just sort of the traits he displays are traits of people that I've sinned and stuff in like day-to-day life. Sort of they're trying to be overly friendly and sort of trying to help, but not sort of thing in the way.
Yeah, helping so much that they become a hindrance.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But yeah, I could say this character has a completely different approach from any other character that he's portrayed so far in the Peter Kay thing. It's very jarring, because I remember saying just before we got on there, I remember saying I did not like this episode at all to begin with. I actually described it as shit, and then I gave it a second watch, and I noticed more things, and I enjoyed it a lot more because of that. Because I'm looking for different things, and I noticed different things, and I got the jokes more. I understood a lot more about what was going on in the episode, and I did enjoy it a lot more for that. I went into the episode thinking this was going to be another regular episode of the Peter Kay thing, but it's not. It's a different kind of episode. There's comedy there. There's a lot of comedy there. But I think he's done this episode with the fact that there's a message behind that comedy as well.
Yeah.
And it took me off guard, which is what I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah, you weren't expecting it. I've got to say, I was very much in sort of like the same mindset, really. I think if you were to go into this episode sort of blind, there is a particular mindset to have for it. Like, to be honest with you, you couldn't really go into sort of like this episode with the same way you would go in for sort of, say, like Eyes Down or The Ice Cream Man Cometh, because it's a different style of episode to the ones that have come before it.
Yeah, it's a more serious episode in a way. It's more of a serious tone to it, more of a serious message.
Yeah.
And it's in a way, it's a completely different style, because Peter Kay portrays lots of different characters, and you don't really see many other roles played by other characters, major actors. Like, for example, all the major players in Eyes Down are played by Peter Kay. The three main characters are all played by Peter Kay. The only other technically you could say coming close to that in the amount of characters he played was at the club. But as we know, all them characters they're just as good, just come across on their own as anyway. But Peter Kay literally concentrates on the one character, which I think I don't know if I said on air or was it or recorded before. This episode was the story of Leonard, so it kind of made sense that he only played Leonard. Whereas Eyes Down was the story of the bingo hall, the arena was the story of the MEN, the club was the story of the club, sort of thing. The Ice Cream Man come off, so in a way you could say it was the story of Mr. Softy, but he could get away because he was going to a festival. There was other stories going on somewhat. He played, like I say, he played his rival. He played the DJ. He played, it's this, that, and the other. But the clues in the name of the episode itself, Leonard. It's one character. So it makes sense for him just to concentrate on that one character because it doesn't make sense to go off to somebody else unless they're talking about Leonard. Which is what we got.
See, this is like one of my possibly my most least favourite episode of that Peter Kay thing so far. I was actually dreading writing the notes for this episode. Even sat there at points going, "This is gonna be a fucking slog," and it was. To be fair to it, like watching it back now, it has a couple of saving graces in terms of some of the lines where it's like, you probably killed him regarding the girlfriends and that.
There's a couple of moments where if you've got something like some sort of drink in your mouth, it is going to come out of your mouth, sprayed whatever you're watching this on, just because it comes out of nowhere.
There's that and the Hitler line of like, I've had one ball for 3 weeks. Yeah. But in terms of the actual episode, I think it's possibly like an attempt at, because it was that Peter Kay thing, and evidently, like he had some sort of affiliation with this Leonard that he'd met at the petrol station. So evidently it was doing some sort of tribute to him, being the fact that he had no friends because no one went to his funeral, sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's his way of immortalising him.
Yeah, but in terms of like, it is a bit of a not dark, but very more sort of less comedy and more drama focused, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. It's got a more serious, like I said before, it's got a more serious tone to it as opposed to like the arena.
Yeah.
Or, Eyes Down. From the get-go with, like, for example, with the Ice Cream Man come off, he runs the fucking cameraman over. It's, from the get-go, it's going to be a funny show. It's going to be a comedy-based show. But
it's like I've said already before, though, that it's like that thing, though, of throughout Blackpool and of course other towns you go to, there probably is people. There'll be someone in your town that is exactly like or has characteristics like Leonard.
Yeah.
There'll be like something that they do that. Oh yeah, Leonard does that as well, sort of thing in this episode.
Yeah.
Where you could easily sort of go and people watch. Like there's that many people. Like there was a guy I used to serve at the Odeon who we called Cricket Man. And he was
I think I remember you telling us about this. Is this the guy that would sort of like come in from sort of like doing cricket matches in sort of like full batting gear?
No, he usually just go and watch the cricket.
No, that would be Ant. That would be.
Oh, would it? Right.
But
that'll piss him off when he
used to have like sensitive eyes. Sometimes he'd come in these like proper like thick black shades, and he had this massive bag, and he'd always like purposely build up a queue for it. And like, right, I'll leave you to it. Like you didn't want to talk to him, but you had to because you were like you paid to be nice. So he knew I hated it. He knew I didn't like him. So, but yeah, it's like I remember hearing stuff like, oh yeah, he lived with his mum and stuff, and he was in like his 70s or 80s at the time. So it's like, oh yeah, he lived with his mum until she died, and then now he lives by himself and all this sort of shit. But even like the bloody skip guy, he used to like cycle up and down, and he'd be routing through skips and metal detecting whatever on the beach. To like Pigeon Man.
Pigeon Man.
Lewis is laughing, but it's true.
It is true. There was a Pigeon Man in Blackpool. If I remember correctly, there used to be one as well, on St John's Square before they did it up, where we had like the green sort of like mound where the buses used to come through.
Yeah.
Yes. There used to be a guy that used to sit on there, and he'd just be sat there, and you just see him covered in pigeons all the time.
There's a guy now. I see him every time I'm in town, where he'll have like a little shopping trolley. He'll have like a big bag of seeds that he'll just like randomly rip open outside like Waterstones, and then he'll stand there vaping and was watching the pigeons eating.
Yeah, I've seen him. Been a while since I've been to town, thanks to the global bastard, but yes, I have seen him.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of the Leonard episode really. I think it's because it's as well for it being like if you don't count in the services sort of, you count it as a 6-part series, sort of to go from like the in the club to Eyes Down to Ice Cream Man to the arena to this.
Yeah,
it's like.
Oh, it's definitely the weakest of the 5 official ones.
I'm going to be a little bit different here. Now, I'm not going to say I did enjoy the episode that much. I've gone on record saying originally I watched it and I thought it was garbage. But then obviously I watched it multiple recurrent times and it grew on me a little bit. I'm not going to categorise it with the other episodes. The reason being its tone is completely different from the previous episodes, to the point where I think it actually would be slightly unfair to compare them with the previous episodes. So I'm not going to rate it amongst the episodes, but I will go on record and say I didn't enjoy it as much as the previous episodes. But I'm not going to place it in such a way where I would say, well, this episode's better than that episode. I enjoyed it more than maybe an episode that I've watched already, but I'm not willing to place where I would put it.
No, that's fair enough.
Just because the tone's completely different.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to join us next time for Lonely at the Top.
Yeah, the last one of that Peter Kay thing.
Oh.
And I think I'm going to have a quick nosy at all the extras, seeing as it's the last one. And if there's anything of note in the extras, I will bring it up at the end of the episode. So
what's in the extras aside from like I think is there a few deleted scenes or something? I think there's obviously like the services.
I do have the DVD somewhere knocking about.
I've got the DVD. Let me have it.
I think someone's tied it up and put it away.
Mine's downstairs, so.
I believe he has it.
Yes. So the special features include alternative, extended, and deleted scenes, trailers, obviously Peter Kay commentary, which is been available on all the episodes, and then the original pilot episode, The Services, which we've already covered.
Yep. So I'll have a look at all the other gubbins, see what's on there, and I might even try and do a bit of an Easter egg hunt as well. Because I like Easter egg hunting. Because I found one on season 2, so.
Well, the final episode is sort of like an Easter egg to episode 1 in the club, because it's a continuation from the Finals of Talent track.
Wonderful. So I've got a sneaky feeling I may enjoy this episode, but we shall see. We shall see in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll have to join us for that one, because after that it's season 2 of Phoenix Nights.
Whee! And we edge closer and closer to me and Coxie doing a fitness video.
I thought it was you and Christ.
I thought it was you and Christ.
Oh, sorry, yes, me and Christ.
The other Cox.
The other Cox, yes. But
Yeah,
technically, I wasn't
considering
wrong.
the current heat wave, like I'm sweating just sitting here. So.
Oh, by the time we get to it, it'll be mid-December. It'll be fine. Maybe January. It'll be right. We've got 12 episodes to get through yet, so 24 weeks.
Well, boys, I think it's time for some plugs.
It is. You can find me on the UKRAD podcast. We're on all the good podcast catchers out there. Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Music, you name it, we're on there. We're also on YouTube if you want to have a look at our back catalogue there. You can find us on Twitter at UKRAD Podcast. We're on Facebook. We're not really much anywhere else, really. But you can also find my alter ego, Steve, on Twitter as at SteveAOTGTMP. And you can usually see me taking the piss out of someone called Bunkle. You might be familiar with him on Lost Art. But you can also find his other character, Rogar, on the podcast Gunpowder, Treason, No Plot. And you can find them on Twitter at Treason No.
My little plugs I'll give during the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously in collaboration with Coxey's Wrestling Podcast. I've been myself and a lot of the lads in the podcasting group have been doing Lost Art of WrestleBox reviews, where we've been looking at mainly New Japan Pro Wrestling and National Wrestling Alliance shows. They're all available on the Lost Art of Wrestling podcast feed. And I'll leave the Facebook and Twitter plugs for Coxey when he plugs Lost Art of Wrestling. I've also recently been started my Twitch streaming career with my Let's Plays of Yakuza 3, which is part of the Yakuza gaming series remastered collection for the PlayStation 4. They're available on, for the moment, they're available on Twitch at twitch.tv/loggers109. As well as doing the Let's Play series, I also do sort of like little random games of sort of like Fall Guys and Call of Duty Warzone and sort of like little bits and pieces here and there. And be sure to follow me on Twitter as well at the same tag at Loggers109, where recently I've been sort of doing little mini reviews of all the James Bond films, pretty much in chronological order. I've gone straight back to the first one in 1962, and I've just been making my way through there. So make sure to drop me a follow on Twitter.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a Bond film.
I find ways to sort of like, criticize.
I shall prove that statement wrong.
To be fair, I think I can just sum up by saying Goldfinger. And then, I'll have a Goldfinger as well.
Oh,
so,
hang on a minute.
joke for you there.
I've just realised. I said there's nothing wrong with a Bond film, but then I forgot George Lazenby.
Yeah, that's it. I should probably make mention of that film. It's incredibly boring.
Yeah, it's also incredibly
It is so boring. But the one thing I will give that film, I realise this is something that I should bring up on a different podcast. But it's probably the best chemistry between a Bond and a Bond girl. It's up until maybe Casino Royale. I've not really come across sort of like a dynamic between a Bond and a Bond girl that has been as good as the one that George Lazenby and Diana Riggs portray in that movie. So that is the one saving grace I would give the George Lazenby Bond film.
Fair point.
All I can say is I'm just looking forward to Die Well Hard. Or Die Well Hard, even.
Die Well Hard.
We need Die Well Hard to happen. Make it happen, Peter. Make it happen.
But of course, you can find the Lost Art of Podcasting on Facebook or on Twitter at Lost Art of Podcast. You can find us on Instagram as well at Lost Art of Podcasting. For the Lost Art of Wrestling, you can find us on Facebook as well, and you can find us on Twitter at LAOW Podcast. For anything Phoenix Pod related, just go on the Lost Art feed because I've not set up a page for anything yet. And Yeah. Join us next time for Lonely at the Top.
The finale of that Peter Kay thing.
Absolutely.
So for the Phoenix Pod, I've been AXC.
I've been stupid and sexy. Also called Flinders.
And I've been stowing away.
And Jesus, them Tandy catalogues are heavy.
Yeah. What hand do you wipe your bum with?